Welcome to Home Value Stories. This is an appraisal podcast for you, the consumer. I'm your host, Jamie Owen, and I am so glad that you're here with me today. I'm a residential real estate appraiser. I've been appraising homes since 1998. I'm located in Northeast Ohio, which is just south of beautiful Lake Erie. My appraisal company is Aspen Appraisal Services. I also have a blog called Cleveland Appraisal Blog. Over the years, I've enjoyed sharing what I know about real estate with others. And there's a lot to talk about when it comes to real estate, much more than many people realize. Many consumers are not aware of all that goes on behind the scenes of an appraisal or other real estate services. There are many reasons for this. For one, if the bank sends an appraiser to your home, the appraiser's client is the bank. So the appraiser is not going to be able to tell you much about the appraisal process. That's one of the reasons I've been blogging for a few years now. You can, again, read my articles at clevelandappraisalblog.com. My goal with my blog is to educate consumers like yourself about how things work in real estate valuation and other things that are related to real estate. And that is exactly why I've also now created this podcast. I want to provide you with helpful information that you can use to make an informed decision about buying or selling a home, making improvements to your home, or other things related to real estate. You might wonder how appraisers choose comparable sales, how we develop our opinions, and what we look for in a home that affects its value. You might want to learn about other aspects of how real estate works, like insurance or legal matters associated with maybe probate or marriage dissolution, maybe lowering your taxes or other situations like that. In this podcast, I'm going to interview other appraisers, attorneys, real estate agents, home inspectors, insurance agents, title companies, and a whole host of other people that are associated with real estate. That's going to give you a better picture of what goes on behind the scenes. I'm also going to share stories about things that have happened to me in my appraisal career and what we can learn from those things as well. Now, I would like to remind you that this show is for entertainment and education purposes. The views that I express on this show may not reflect the views of every real estate professional. So please keep that in mind. And I'm also not an attorney, so please do not take this information or any information from my podcast as legal advice. If you need legal advice, please reach out to an attorney in your area. My hope is that this information will help you to be more informed when it comes to making decisions regarding real estate. If you enjoy this podcast, you might also enjoy some other appraisal podcasts. Now, many of the other appraisal podcasts out there are more focused on business owners and appraisers, but consumers can learn a lot from these podcasts as well. So I'd like to mention them, and I'd also like to thank these podcasters and appraisers for helping me along my journey to start this podcast. First, I'd like to thank Dustin Harris of the Appraisers Coach podcast. His focus is on helping appraisers in their business. In fact, he encouraged me not to worry about sounding perfect, to just speak naturally and don't worry about correcting every mistake. Well, that takes some of the pressure off, and I appreciate that good advice. Next, Blaine Feyen, who runs the Real Value podcast. His podcast is focused on helping appraisers and other business owners to run their business in a way that adds real value to them and to others. Blaine gave me some excellent advice on how to format a podcast, things to think about that will help listeners to enjoy the podcast, and some great advice on equipment. So thank you very much, Blaine. Next, Tim Anderson, who runs the Appraisers Advocate podcast. He really helped me to pick equipment that would be best for what I'm doing. Now, his podcast is excellent because it really helps to educate appraisers on how to produce higher quality appraisals and in a way that keeps appraisers out of trouble. So his advice is indispensable. Now, last but certainly not least, I'd like to give a huge thank you to Phil Crawford of the Voice of Appraisal podcast. Phil's podcast keeps appraisers and the public informed about what's going on in the world of real estate, and it is changing rapidly. Phil is also the founder of FindMyAppraiser.com, which is a network of appraisers from around the country that are committed to helping you, the consumer, to make an informed decision when it comes to real estate. Phil Crawford is the driving force behind my starting this new podcast, and I'd like to personally thank Phil very much. You may have been listening to my former podcast called the Cleveland Appraisal Blog Podcast. Now, I started that podcast with the same goal, to educate consumers on valuations and real estate in general. And that first podcast was really a way for me to get my feet wet in the world of podcasting. Well, Phil liked it, and he loved the fact that my appraisal podcast is really for you, the consumer. Therefore, I am proud to announce that Find My Appraiser is a sponsor of this podcast. I was already a member of Find My Appraiser Network because I completely believe in the movement to help consumers to find great appraisers in their area. And so the Find My Appraiser Network does just that. It helps you, the consumer, to find excellent appraisers in your area. I'm also happy to announce another sponsor. Home Value Stories is now going to be sponsored not only by Find My Appraiser, but also by ConsumerHomeValue.com. ConsumerHomeValue.com is your go-to source for trusted consumer information about all things real estate. Are you buying, selling, moving, considering remodeling, or something else? Go to ConsumerHomeValue.com for reliable answers to your real estate questions. So I'd like to personally thank Janelle Vestal and Pauline Rick, who have been helping me to rebrand my podcast into something a little larger than just my blog. Thank you so much for listening to my show. Let's get together twice a month and talk about real estate. Whether you're listening in your car or sitting in your favorite comfy chair, I hope that you enjoy listening to all the things that happen in the world of real estate. And if you have a question that you would like for me to answer on a future podcast, please send me an email with your question at aspenappraisals@gmail.com. That's aspenappraisals@gmail.com, and let me know. Until we visit again, put a big smile on and have a great day. Talk to you soon.